Shall we make
Okay.
a start this morning? So look, firstly, thank you to everyone coming along this morning. Obviously, it's a big thrill and honour to have both Larry and Cheryl Elman join us this morning. The topic that we're doing today really is an extension of the last one. We were talking about online hypnotherapy. The conversation I'm still hearing out there is that people are either still not feeling 100% confident because either there's been still some limiting belief around technology they're holding on to, or perhaps there hasn't been as many clients for them in recent times. And so it felt like this would be a good opportunity to continue that exploration. And I reached out to Cheryl and Larry, and they very kindly offered to come along today and to help share some of their wisdom and knowledge, which we're very, very grateful for. I would recommend getting your pad and pencils out, although my fake green screen means that it looks like I'm just holding up nothing now except a fist. But there is a pad and pen there. So
It's a negative hallucination.
It is a negative hallucination. We're starting early. We are recording today, and there will be hopefully a replay available. But, you know, the real aim of today is to get our head around this, to practice, to explore, and to ask questions and enjoy it. But Cheryl and Larry, would it be okay if I pass it over to you?
Sure. Let's see. My question is, I've heard that Zoom is not confidential. For example, people can crash it. My fear is someone crashes my Zoom when I'm hypnotizing. Okay, so the reason that occurred, originally Zoom was set up for businesses. Then they didn't have as big a security, but all of a sudden, schools closed, businesses closed, and like 600,000 people a week basically were joining Zoom. And the platform was, so what the schools were doing, and they were putting on social media or out in the open the Zoom links, and they weren't using passwords. So now it takes a lot more to get into. In fact, I sent some recordings to, we're doing a class for Russia, and I sent some recordings that we did for some videos, and never had a hard time having somebody read them, but I had to go looking for a password, even for me to pass videos that, you know, the recordings that you're doing now, Lawrence. Now they have it where you have to go look for the password to give somebody to look at it. So they have really changed the security, but the main thing is you use a password and you type that in a different place, you know, and never put it out in social media and stuff. You can have people contact you, or, you know, if they want the link, or use registration. So I think, Lawrence, you used registration. That's how you knew you had approximately 100 people, right? So,
yeah, we had a sign-up link, and then they provided that information back.
Right.
It's worth noting, though, that I know Zoom are updating their platform on May 30th. They're rolling out additional security codes as well, I believe.
Right. So I've never had anybody crash, and I've been using it for 2.5 years. We've been teaching on it. So I hope that helps.
Yeah.
I have to brag about my darling here for a moment.
Wait, what?
So just to add to that as well, on Zoom, you can actually lock the session too as the host. So that prevents anybody else coming on.
That's great.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yes. Give an idea. Go ahead.
And you can also delay when people can come in as well now. So you can make in the advanced settings section, you can make your people can only come into the waiting room, and then after 10, 15 minutes, they can't come in at all.
Thank you. And so here's the other thing. I don't use, like Lawrence, you're using your your personal meeting room, right? When I spoke with Zoom originally, because I have a professional platform, so I have 10 licenses, some of which I'm still looking to sell, because you can have 300 people in a meeting in mine, and also you can get a transcript. Although they're a little slow on those, I used to get them right away, but they are much slower. But when what was I going to say about that? that had you just said? Sorry. That I was responding to? Oh, about was it the waiting room?
Yeah, the waiting room was, I think, her last time.
Oh, I don't use the personal meeting room, ever. I just used it the other day for the first time, because then everybody has that link. So every time I schedule a meeting, it creates an individualized new number for every meeting I do. And that's probably also, now for this, you have it every week, so that's good. But then, Lawrence, if you're doing other meetings or seeing clients and stuff, it just pays to create it where they can get and put it in with your calendar and link that so that they can easily put it to their calendar and vice versa as they join. So it's worth doing that extra little step, and I wouldn't use your meeting room unless you're doing like a once a month kind of thing here or certain things, because then nobody has that. And Zoom themselves suggested to create a new room for each situation. I might use the same one and go back and look up a client in previous meetings for the same client. I might do that sometimes.
And just to expand out on that as well, that if you have acuity scheduling and you schedule your appointments with that via Zoom, the Zoom link will be unique to only that appointment at that date and that time as well. So there are other ways of doing these unique links as well. So good stuff. Right.
And I also, if you wanted to, like you'll see, I'm going to be posting some blinks. If you've never heard of b.link, it's a short way of like when I sent Lawrence the link for it was like this long for our courses, our book club study. You know, we're going to have some hypnotherapy book study groups, and we have scheduled 2 of them. So I just created it where it's a short blink, and then just a short thing. And then that I was able to hook up to, not this time I didn't bother, but that can go to Acuity, which then can go into, you can actually set up payments on Acuity, which I haven't done yet, Acuity scheduling. That will create the Zoom link and coordinate with your calendar, and will coordinate with PayPal. So I didn't do that last little link yet. But when we were doing when we thought we were coming to Australia and then found we weren't, we used some, the blink to easily, so people could read the poster, easily see the links, what they were, remember them, or write them down without having to write down this whole big thing. So, you know, for their free session with us and a free product that they were able to get. So I recommend, I just worked my way through it, and I was going, okay, what's out there? And then saw all the things that could be brought together, and I was amazed when they worked. So you can, and they seem to have great security.
Absolutely. And those shortened links are fantastic. There's only one glitch to them, is do not use them in Facebook advertising. And the reason for that is because Facebook ads accumulate a relevance of advertising, and they're trying to reduce spamming. They've been doing this for years now. And the shortened links are fantastic for everything except for the Facebook ads. And because Facebook is constantly trying to pick up the relevance of the description and the links to the product that you're selling. So if you use a shortened link in your Facebook ads, that will actually reduce the amount of reach and make the ad more expensive, because the algorithm cannot analyze that the link is relevant to the description for your Facebook advertising. So that's the only time. That's the only time.
But is it, if you customize those though?
You can customize, absolutely. You can customize the wording in them as well. So, but you have to make it relevant to whatever it is that you're advertising. So if you've got a course of some sort, Cheryl, you can write hypnosis course in the custom section of the shortened link, and then it'll absolutely approve with that.
Well, you'll see, it will say blink, b.link with the slash, and then it's going to say Elman Book Study AU.
Yep.
for Australia.
Fantastic.
So then you can use it. And so that was my whole reason of doing that, is so I can look at it, or anybody could look at it, and that in itself could catch their attention.
Absolutely.
So and more people are getting used to getting on Zoom, getting on the internet. People that, especially elderly people that were stuck before only knowing email, now it's a way of visiting with their families. I mean, we just did from Hypno Thoughts. We had, I guess, around 60, 70 people on the other night, and their welcome night, Ken Guzzo usually puts on a welcome pool party, and he offers everybody a free drink. He does this on his own, a free drink, and also has some hors d'oeuvres and stuff. So I think last year he bought something like 350 drinks and had hors d'oeuvres for people. So we had the pool party. So for Cinco de Mayo, so people had virtual things. And what we did, and this was a fun thing, this would be fun for you to do in one of your meetups, is every I think it was 3 to 4 times an hour, Scott Sandlin did a shuffle and put us in the breakout rooms, and we got to talk to each other. So what I did see that was sort of interesting, I also saw that he was able to do it. One of the times I think he put for, instead of room 1, I think he put Taco Bell or something. So I have to learn how you can customize those names for the breakout rooms, because you could actually put up a topic in each one and then shuffle or have people go around in the same groups and switch the rooms. So that would be a great way of having discussion when you have a big group, where you get into 4 to 6 or 7 people per group, or even I'm taking Law of Attraction with Victoria Gallagher, and we're sometimes only 2 people in a group,
Sure.
and discussing. Yes.
Cheryl, can you expand out on that and explain how the Zoom links are not included in the basic Zoom criteria? Not the Zoom links, the breakout rooms.
I don't know. Is it included in the free?
No, in Australia, it's actually an extra that we pay for, so it's another $70 a month. I just assumed that that's what it was over there as well.
Well, okay, so it does.
Excuse me, I was looking at their ad today, and if I interpreted it correctly, in the U.S., you've got the freebie level, then you've got a level that isn't their business level, it's sort of in between, and then you go to the first of their business level. At that in-between level, you can get some breakout rooms.
Yeah,
Yes, you have to purchase them.
Yeah, well,
It's small, the amount of money for that in-between level is very, very small, so that it was not really significant. And so if I were advising somebody, I would say look at that part of the ad first, because it would give you that capability. It would be great for clients. It's probably not the level you want if you're going to be running a meeting like this, or a class with 20 people or something of that sort. You'd probably want to be a level higher. But for just getting some of the extras, it was a good deal. Whether that's also in Australia, I have no knowledge. But look at their ad carefully, because there is this in-between level that's very good.
so I
Thank
was
you.
able to, when I was on that $14.95, which I think is $19.95 in your country, or so. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I paid $200 a year.
It is, yeah. It's 19 or 21 or something like that. It's about 20 bucks.
But sometimes you don't realize. I didn't realize I had the breakout rooms until I went in and looked for them. I called them and I said, "How come I don't have them?" And I had to go looking, and I had to turn them on. So, have you looked through all the security and permissions and all the, going through everything?
So on Zoom, you go into admin, room management, Zoom rooms, and that will tell you whether you have access to Zoom rooms or not. And
Zoom
as soon as
rooms,
you add a room, As soon as you add a room in Australia, that's when they'll tell you whether you got to pay for it or not.
Zoom rooms is different than Zoom meetings.
Yes,
so I have Zoom meetings, and going into Zoom meetings, don't call it Zoom rooms because I can't do that either. Go to Zoom meetings and look through all your permissions and check to see if there's breakout rooms in there.
Yep.
Okay, I will also check because I still have licenses because I'm paying this big amount every month, so I'm looking for people to buy in and chip in. So you would get 20 gigabytes of cloud recording. You get transcription. I'm not sure how clear they will understand Australian accents, but
that's fine.
It's probably not as bad as Bob Burns with his Scottish accent. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's nice to be able to get it, especially if you want to translate or then maybe grab that and use it for an article or a book because you already said it. And some people, it's easier to speak than sit down and write. So I do have some extras, and I will find out if they could be used in Australia.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be great.
So my email is Dave Elman Hypnosis. Here, I'll type it in there. Chat, because I don't think I put that. Chat. Come back there. Dave Elman Hypnosis @gmail.com. I try to keep it simple. Dave Elman Hypnosis @gmail.com. And let me know if you're interested. It's $40 a month, and that would include getting all those things and being able to get as many as 40 American dollars. So that would be getting you also 20 gigabytes of cloud space, and also the transcription, and being able to have as many as 300 people in a Zoom meeting. So let me know if you have use for that and if that would be handy. I'm interested in, one of my commitments is, I've been paying this now months by myself, is to get it out there and let people know so that I'm not going to pay it by myself. So, okay. Any other questions on Zoom? How many people, if you could raise your hand so I could say, how many people are using Zoom now, either with family, friends, courses? Let me get to the second screen. Hold those up. Oh, for the people that have their pictures on. Oh, look, I got my little thumbs up. How cute. Thank you. Okay, great. How many people are using it to speak to clients and work with clients? Okay. If you're wondering where those little thumbs are coming from, they're down in reactions on the bottom. Good. So quite a few. Is there anybody that's nervous about working with clients online? Paul, was that you? You don't like it.
No, it's not me. It's just still staying up there. So no, I use it
for
corporate facilitator. So I use it for corporate facilitation. I run it for coaching, hypnotherapy. It's quite varied. So no, very comfortable with the material and with using Zoom and Zoom meetings.
Good. Okay. So I like it. It was interesting. I was working with somebody, and it is the first time it happened. And I did have her in hypnosis, and I'm on a farm road. So my internet is not fantastic, but I mean, I still have been functioning for 2.5 years with people sometimes from 9-10 countries at a time online, with us. But she lives up in Virginia, and she's further out on a farm, and her internet is way worse than mine. And she dropped out in the middle. And so I just called her on her phone and said, sleep. And then I realized I hate working on the phone without a picture. Because then when I was going to emerge her at the end, I counted her up and I'm going, oh, I don't know if she came out. And I'm going, and you wake up feeling great and say, yay. And that's the only way I knew that she was up and about. So I personally don't like working on the phone specifically without a picture. I feel so much more secure working with the picture. Anybody else have any comments or experiences with that? You can unmute yourself because we can't necessarily see
Cheryl,
you.
I like having the visual medium so that I can calibrate to the client and actually observe the phenomena unfolding in real time. And obviously, when you've just got the auditory feedback, it doesn't provide you with everything that's going on. So often I'll use the phone to ensure that there's good quality audio.
Right.
And use the visual medium to be able to calibrate to the client. So sometimes when you've got the visual and the audio going, the bandwidth isn't enough in Australia. We've got some pretty average internet in Australia to ensure that the sound quality is up to spec. So for me, the auditory component for the client is a premium part of the experience.
Right.
And the visual feedback for me is to be able to then be able to provide feedback using pacing or, just basically truisms about their experience based upon what I'm seeing. So there's a couple of different ways to work with that there.
So obviously you have worked out the problem of having their computer open and their phone open to eliminate the feedback. Can you share that? Because I know Larry and I sometimes struggle with that.
Yeah, so I place a premium on the auditory experience. People can have a pretty crappy visual experience. It's something that we're also experiencing in the corporate training environment as well, because when we've got quite a few people on a corporate training, and particularly during the periods of time in which we're all jumping online, and especially with kids jumping online as well.
Right.
The visual material coming through the network is actually coming as the premium at the expense of the auditory experience. So, with regards to hypnosis sessions, particularly, especially if they close their eyes at any particular point in time, their auditory acuity is going to increase. So, using the phone and even perhaps having them have their headphones in their ears just ensures that is something that's consistent. And if the internet drops out, the call is still going.
Right.
So there's a second level of redundancy in there.
Right. But now, how do you, do you have them switch their mic to the telephone?
Yeah, everything runs through the telephone from an auditory standpoint. And I'm just using the camera to observe them, and also for them to observe me if we need to. But it runs concurrently, so there shouldn't be any lag.
So you're also using the phone for the audio too? So you're both using phone and video?
So I'll use their computer for the camera.
Right.
I'll use the phone, the mobile phone, or the cellular phone for the auditory component to ensure that regardless of what happens with my internet connection, my voice is always in their ear.
Right. And so you both set it that way.
Yes, set it up at the beginning that way.
Okay.
Paul, can I ask, do you cancel the sound on the computer so that you must
cancel it back. Yeah, you must cancel it. So you mute the computer and you're just using it as a visual data stream rather than visual and auditory.
The problem is we haven't muted it properly.
So that's not the same as when we're in the same room. This is when we get somebody else.
I understand.
So when you're recording, do you record it all when you're doing this?
I never record my clients.
Okay, or any of your meetings?
When it comes to meetings, I mean, Lawrence and I did an interview, and that was all being recorded through Zoom. I think you need to be nuanced in how you use the technology and for what purpose. If you're going to record, I would make sure that you've got a good quality microphone. I use a Rode NT-USB mic. So I think that's really important. Or you've got a headset that has a boom microphone near your mouth so that it comes through quite clearly. This way you don't get the echoing in the room. But it depends. I don't record my hypnosis sessions with my clients because I don't want to have to retain all of that data in my own personal files and maintain the security around that. And also, I don't necessarily want them unpacking consciously what we've done in a session either and reviewing that. If I'm recording a hypnotic audio for them specifically, well, then that would be something that I would record specifically for them. But that would be for their own personal use.
Right. Okay.
That's just me. Everyone works differently.
Right. Anybody else? Anything on sound and using it?
I would have a question, Paul. If you use the phone, you wouldn't use any music in the background, would you?
I don't use music.
I don't either.
Yep. Thank you.
By the way, Pellin and Palmer, what are your first names?
My name is Patricia.
Patricia? Okay. Thank you. And Patricia, I also record, and it's mainly because I can't remember. You know, as I'm 67 now, the memory's not what it used to be. So it was like, what did I say? And I don't want to spend all that time writing. I want to be client-centered, looking at the client. So for me, I do that, and so that I can then go back and listen if I need to, or make some notes.
Yeah,
and also for security.
I understand what Paul's saying, absolutely. I live in regional Australia, so I literally live in bumfuck nowhere. Literally.
Sounds uncomfortable.
Like, seriously. And I have fantastic internet because I use a product called a Google Mesh. It boosts my internet. I can play music. I very rarely get jittering. I can... Google, stop. Sorry, it's talking to me now.
Because you mentioned it.
So I'm actually in my recording studio, not in my workspace. So I have a Google in here as well. I have 8 Googles in my house, so it's all integrated with the lights, and it can send out text messages. It does absolutely everything. So I'm a bit of a tech head, in case you didn't click onto that. But I use a product called Google Mesh, and it will actually like boost up the signal. I can play music. I very rarely get jittering. It also means that I don't have to, bypass any systems of any sort. I'm just using my laptop, and that's it. When I have worked with many clients over the years, in the thousands actually, and I completely get the whole visual audio side. And I've had those clients that their camera has been smashed on their phone, and they just don't have any access anywhere else, or they don't own a webcam. So, I just do the audio side, and at the end of the day, they can usually see me. It's just that I can't see them. And it comes down to, I can still use my whiteboard. I can still do NLP and hypnosis and all that sort of stuff. And if you're struggling with that visual side yourself, just close your eyes.
Right.
That's all you've got to do. Put yourself into that therapist state where you close your eyes and then start talking to your client as if they were really there, as if you could really see them. Because sometimes all you can see on the screen is a black screen with a name on it. And it happens, and it's still just as effective. So it's fantastic, each to their own. But yeah, back to the original statement, I record all of my sessions for insurance purposes, because at the end of the day, there's always some dickhead out there that wants to sue someone for money. And I have it all go to a 4 terabyte hard drive that goes straight from the recording onto the hard drive. The hard drive gets locked away into the filing cabinet, so it abides by all security laws, all confidentiality laws. And no, the client does not get a copy of it unless they can send me a statutory declaration from their lawyer stating that they would like the content, and that's all got to be signed, sealed, and delivered to me. Because I've worked with court cases as well. I work with the parole officers in my area with a lot of pedophiles and murderers and stuff like that. So yeah, I work a lot with the court systems.
Right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And Yeah, I think it's good to have it. I also don't give it to the client because, again, I don't want them to go back on the stuff that we've just released.
Absolutely, and all that state in the original contract when I sign them all up.
Right. Okay. So, what kind of inductions do you use when you're doing things on Zoom?
Me personally, when I use my inductions, my very first session is always NLP questioning. We do a lot of exploration questioning, and the reason why we do that is because I can get a structure of reality off that particular person. And then when it comes to the inductions are based on what their structure of reality is. So some people respond better to a confusion technique. Others will respond to metaphoric languaging. Some people respond to progressive muscle relaxation. So when I do that exploration questioning, that's when I find out the induction that is required for that in particular client.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Or if you were working with somebody in person, how many people use the Dave Elman induction? Anybody?
I've actually set that up as a poll. Shall we do that as a poll and just see?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I've got here, how many people use the Elman induction frequently? Let's launch this poll.
Now this is whether it's online or in person.
Online or in person, yep. So let's have a look here. We're about nearly halfway through the voting. Almost there.
Obviously, online, Cheryl, it needs to be adapted.
Yeah. So,
yes, it does, and that's one of the things I'm going to teach you tonight.
Yeah, and also having trained with Inez Simpson, I noticed that she also modifies the Elman induction as well for the SP process.
So
right.
Interesting. I'll share the results. Apparently, about 58% do not use the Elman induction, which I find surprising. So I think today is going to be very beneficial for you. Whereas of the people that did vote, yes, 43% do. So
another question is, out of the 58% that do not, how many people know, or just in general, how many people know and don't know the Dave Elman induction? So I don't know if you can, if we can use the same, relaunch the polling and use the same questions, but yes, if you know it and no if you don't. Would that be good? So I can hit relaunch.
Well, what's the question shall we ask? How many people know the Elman induction?
Okay.
Know of it? Type that in.
No, know how to do it. Have learned it.
Right. How to do. And I'll make that anonymous as well, so we don't. Right. Let's jump into here. Sorry about that, everyone. And we'll launch this poll. So this is how many people know how to do the Elman induction. Up to 37 out of 44. Anyone else want to vote? 39. 40. 41. There's 3 people holding out.
Well, we're one of them.
Actually, you're one of them, and I kind of hope you do know how to do it. It'd be a bit awkward otherwise, wouldn't it? Okay, so let's have a look at this. If we share the results here, we have 66% say yes, they do know how to use it, and 34% that don't currently know how to do it.
So 34% versus that 58%, that's a big chunk of that.
Mm.
So, well, good. So how about we talk about the Dave Elman induction?
That would be wonderful.
Okay, and so I'm going to turn this over to Larry and let him talk about, by the way, what time does this go till?
Until midday. So we've got roughly an hour and 20 minutes left.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
Somebody said, can you talk that long? I said, we sometimes teach 9 hours a day, so no problem.
Well, did you want to do your thing on?
Why don't you talk a little about Dad and the steps?
Okay. Hi, I'm Larry Elman. My father was Dave Elman. Basically, my father first saw hypnosis done by my grandfather in a situation where it didn't work. And my grandfather did a perfect induction, no problem, but he had not had enough training, and I don't think anybody did in 1906, which is when this occurred, on regression, to understand that the presenting problem he had was one where any good hypnotist today would immediately go for regression. There was no such thing then. So the result is he tried other methods, it backfired. My father came away saying, this stuff doesn't work. 2 years later, my grandfather had cancer, was dying of cancer, was in extreme pain, and a hypnotist came by and gave him hypnotic pain control. And when my father saw the extent of this, he became very interested. So at 8 years old, he began studying my grandfather's books on it and my grandfather's notes, and eventually became a stage hypnotist. When Vaudeville, which is where he was a stage hypnotist, stopped being, he went into other fields, and basically the hypnosis was in the background. How many people here, I guess most of you probably know what I mean by waking hypnosis. My father made excellent use of that in show business and in radio broadcasting. But of course, if you don't know what waking hypnosis is, you don't realize what's going on. So Dad was using it, but it was sort of like very quietly. In 1949, he was giving a hypnotic presentation, an evening presentation. I don't know whether this was one of the charitable ones or whether this was an actual evening show. But at the end of it, a committee of doctors came up to him and asked him to give a course on medical hypnosis. And my father's reply was, I'm not a doctor. I don't know medicine. Go get somebody else. And they said, well, there's 3 things you do that nobody else does that we need for medicine. One is very rapid inductions. The inductions being taught in 1949 are all in the 20 or 30 minute level. Dad's was on the 3-minute level. If you're talking about in a doctor's office, obviously the 3-minute level is what you need. The second was the conventional wisdom in 1949 was that about 40 to 60% of human beings could be induced. Nobody else could. Dad was doing 95% and above. Lastly, his suggestions took. Well, from a doctor's point of view, if you're going to use hypnosis, the suggestion must be as reliable as the pill from the pharmacy. So these were the reasons that a hypnosis course started. So if you bear that in mind, you'll understand the extent to which he stressed certain things. One of them was speed. Another was that it would be direct suggestion, because you don't have time really for indirect suggestion. And there were a couple of other things. The result is the Dave Elman Induction is built on a series of tests and convincers. To give you one simple example, when you have somebody close their eyes and then be unable to open them, in their mind, the fact that they can't open them is, this doesn't happen to me normally. I'm convinced something's going different. So it's a convincer. So the tests were set up to be tests and convincers. If you put somebody through 3 or 4 tests and convincers in a row, they will be fairly deep in hypnosis, and you will have a very good trance. That's basically how the Dave Elman induction was developed, was using tests and convincers. I could go on at length, I usually do, but I think it would be a good idea at this point if my wife taught the induction.
Oh, well, we have some time. So do you want to give him a little history on Dad? Hold on. I have a little slide presentation, so I can actually share it. I was just pulling it. So give me a minute. Okay, starting with there. Give me a second. Slideshow. And let me go back to Zoom. Share. Okay.
Okay. My grandfather's name was Jacob Kopelman, commonly called Jake. You're wondering where the first 3 letters disappeared to. When my father was in Vaudeville, when he got to top billing, the full name David Kopelman did not fit on the marquee. They had to shorten it to Dave Elman, and that kind of stuck. So that's how we get my name. I've already mentioned about Jake's cancer and about how my father started developing his techniques from there. When he was in elementary and later in junior high, he used his schoolmates as test subjects. One day, one of the books in my grandfather's library was Bernheim's Suggestive Therapeutics. And there is a place in Suggestive Therapeutics where Bernheim remarks that if you do a series of inductions, an induction, finish a session, later have another session, and so on and so forth, after several sessions, a person will be in a much deeper trance each time they're induced than at the end of the first session. Bernheim said he noticed this so often that it was, in his mind, a fact, but he wasn't sure exactly where it came from. My father speculated, was it how often? Was it, what do you do to get there? And he finally decided one day to simply induce, emerge, induce, emerge, induce, emerge. Very rapidly, one after another, with the suggestion in between that when you're next induced, you will go deeper. He tried that, and the first kid he tried it on went all the way to somnambulism immediately. My father was amazed. He knew what somnambulism was, but in 1912, which is when that happened, somnambulism was something that happened occasionally, randomly. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Nobody knew how to make it work intentionally. So he emerged this classmate, having handled whatever the classmates presenting the problem was, grabbed a second classmate and again did the induce, emerge with the deepening suggestion in between. And again, the person went into somnambulism. Wait a minute, that's 2 in a row. But everybody else says somnambulism is random. Maybe I'm onto something. Tried it a third time. As my father always said when describing this thing, once he had 3 of these in a row, he figured, I've got a method. Now my problem is, how do I perfect it? So the Dave Elman Induction basically dates from 1912. A year or two later, he's in high school, he starts dating a young lady, and her father hears that my father is a hypnotist, and his date's father gets angry. And so Dad stops being a hypnotist. He wants the date, and okay, we leave that alone. So he got out of hypnosis for a year or two, and then when he joined Vaudeville, he went back into it.
Do you want to, how many people know what Vaudeville, well, everybody's got their picture off, so you go ahead and.
Okay. Vaudeville. Vaudeville, I know it's a US term. It is also a term in some places in Europe. I have no idea whether it's a term common in Australia, even though we've taught in Australia.
Did they have vaudeville in Australia, Lawrence? Do you know?
They did.
Okay.
Okay, then I can just keep going.
It was basically a traveling troupe before movies came about, and it was and they would go from town to town, and they would have a multitude of things. So Dave Elman played the saxophone. He was a comic. He also played violin too, right? And
saxophone, violin, piano, and a couple of others.
And definitely a comic, and then hypnosis. So this way, everybody was able to do multiple things, so they didn't have to carry as many people on the troupe. And what killed vaudeville?
What killed vaudeville was the development of cheap movie projectors, because before that, the guy who owned the theater in town had to hire a vaudeville troupe of 20 to 30 people, pay at the local boarding house for 20 to 30 people. They'd be there a week or two. They'd give a whole bunch of shows that would fill his theater, then they'd move on. After cheap movie projectors were developed, he went down to the local high school, found a pimply-faced nerd, trained him on the projector, and it was a hell of a lot cheaper. So that's what killed vaudeville. So when vaudeville died, Dad was in New York, and vaudeville had a very bad name in New York at the time. Excuse me, not vaudeville. Hypnosis had a very bad name in New York at the time, so he could not be a hypnotist in New York.
So one sec. So here he is reading a Jewish journal and making jokes. And in the center picture, he's on the sax, and that is a guy dressed as a woman in the act, and she's singing. And Dave Elman in a bowler and tuxedo. So that's about 1917. So he was about 17 years old. So, okay.
Anyway, as I was saying a few moments ago, he did all sorts of different things in New York, songwriter, musician. You can read the whole list. The thing he wanted to do was radio. That was the new technology and the new thing for show business, and he wanted in. He eventually got into radio, and he developed a program called Hobby Lobby. The trick of Hobby Lobby, well, let me describe Hobby Lobby, then I'll show you the trick of it. In Hobby Lobby, he would have people come on the show who had oddball hobbies. A woman who taught kangaroos to box. A woman who would cook eggs on dry ice. A man who would build miniature houses out of nothing but matchsticks. A man who would visit you, steal your stationery, and then write people on your stationery. You have to remember, in that time frame, this is the 1940s, everybody had personalized stationery. Engraved with their address, phone number, whatever. So if he stole your stationery and then you got a letter that had a return address that was somebody, you'd open it and it's not from that person, but it's from this jokester.
And there was a lady that also, she collected different baby carriages, prams, she called them. And it's interesting because she came on the show. Larry was born December 18th, 1938. She was on the show the next week, where for the second time his birth was announced, and she came on with her hobby of the baby carriages to honor Larry. So,
and this was coast to coast national radio, which was quite a big thing in those days. So what was the trick of Hobby Lobby? Because the trick of Hobby Lobby is important to us as hypnotists. My father got good enough at guided imagery and at patter so that as the person was demonstrating their hobby, he would be describing it, and his timing was so good that the radio audience hearing him and the studio audience seeing the demo would be synced and would both be laughing at the same time, applauding at the same time, whatever. And that ability to keep them together made both the studio audience and the radio audience more appreciative of the hobby. And that's what kept the show going. And the show was on the air for about 13 or 14 years. And then it was renewed and on the air my last year in college, which was in the late 50s. So it had quite a run, 37 to whatever.
But then TV came.
Then TV came, and for years, my father would say, I don't understand. I couldn't sell Hobby Lobby on TV. What's wrong? And so I grew up hearing him say this, and that kind of stuck in my head. And the point was, the TV people knew that if anybody but Dave Elman did it, it wouldn't work because he was so good at this simultaneous handling of both the studio and the broadcast audience. So it had to be him. But as a guy who used to live downstairs from us in the next apartment down, I ran into him when we were both in our 70s. And I said to him, you know, this always bothered me. He said, it's simple. Nobody wanted a fat, balding, short guy on TV. Oh, that's what killed Hobby Lobby. Dad was not romantic enough as the leading man. Here's a shot of my father with a group of doctors when he started teaching medical hypnosis. He started teaching medical hypnosis in 1949. I took the course for the first time in 1950. Now, one of the things that was an advantage then compared to the way I have to teach it now was Dad would travel to the city he was going to teach in. So the result is Dad would be at, say, Chicago, and then he'd be at Chicago a week later. The doctors got to practice for the week in between. If you're doing hypnosis and you have a week to practice what you just learned in class, you get very good at it, you understand it, it's very effective. In our case, we frequently have people flying in from overseas, so I have to give my lessons on adjoining days, because they can only fly in, take the course, and fly out. They can't come back and forth once a week. So my students don't get as much chance to practice. Yes, they practice in class every day, but it's not the same as having a full week of practice. So Dad had an advantage on me on that one. But at any rate, there's him teaching in the 1950s. And if you notice, this is my father standing up, talking to a group of doctors on the left. And if you notice on the right, he's lecturing to a toy monkey. Now, in between the left, 1951, and the right, 1917, he never shut up. Now, people accuse me of talking too much. And I'll put this up. When they tell me that, I'll say, It's genetic. Dad never shut up, so why should I? My father's definition of hypnosis is bypass of the critical faculty and establishment of selective thinking. Think about it for a minute. When you are doing hypnosis, that many people say you're going for their subconscious, or you're all sorts of different definitions. In each case, you can bring it down to what I just said. You bypass the critical faculty, and having done that, you insert selective thinking. You make a suggestion. If you think of it that way, you've covered basically all of the other definitions. How does the Dave Elman induction differ from the others? I've already pointed out it's client-centered, uses convincers and deepeners. You've got a great deal of care in the semantics and the forming of suggestions, but that's basically it. And at this point, you want to go on, honey?
Sure.
Your shot.
Okay. So, oops. So basically, there's 6 basic process steps to the Dave Elman induction. The first one is catalepsy of a group of small muscles. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of this. You want to put both of them out? Thanks. Catalepsy of a group of small muscles by suggestion. This is basically as eye lock, eye closure, eye lock. And it didn't have to be specifically the eyes, but most people use the eyes. So it would be like, in a moment, I'm going to have you close your eyes and just start to relax those muscles around your eyes to the point they just don't want to work. And when you're sure they just don't want to work, go ahead and test them and prove to yourself that they just don't want to work. That's right. Now, when people get to that point, and they usually have smiles on their face because it's different than they have experienced before. But yet they could do it with hands, you could do it with a variety of different things, but basically a small group of muscles comes first. And then you just put in a very quick, not a whole progressive muscle relaxation. Just take that feeling of relaxation from the top of your head all the way down to the tips of your toes, like a blanket of relaxation. Now, if you're in a noisy place, you would put in a distraction filter. And for example, this is actually pretty quiet, but Larry might actually cough or a cell phone would go off. So you would just put in whatever distraction filters that you know you might have in your office or they may have in their home. And any sounds that you hear will just help you to go even deeper. In fact, the sound of my voice will always allow you to go even deeper still. Okay? And then Larry was talking about the 3 trips to Bernheim. I forget how long this is, but let me know if I'm gonna come back up to you so I can see you, and let me know if you can hear this, Anthony. I mean Lawrence. It is at this
point in our teachings that I show the doctors the preferred method of achieving deep hypnosis. After I have showed the method, I then say to the doctors, "Why did I do that?" Well, I'll tell you, it's because a man wrote about hypnosis honestly way back in 1880 or 1890 or something like that. When I was a little kid studying hypnosis, I can remember leaning on the showcase of my mother's store in Fargo, North Dakota, reading this book avidly. And in this one chapter, he tells about how the patient would come to him the first week and he'd try to hypnotize him and he'd get him into a light state. They'd come back the second week and he'd do it again, and again he'd go into a light state. Come back the third time, and he'd go into a little bit deeper state. Come back the fourth time, and he'd go into a little bit deeper state, until by about the fifth week, he reached a state known as somnambulism, which could be identified by the fact that suggestions for amnesia can be given in it. And that not only can suggestions for amnesia be given in it, which the patient will accept, but oftentimes the patient brings on to himself an amnesia. And he separates the state from the waking state by this amnesia. And you'll find that he has this amnesia from the time the critical factor is bypassed until the critical factor is brought back into focus again. Now, I read this, and I read it again. I knew the values of this somnambulistic state because my father had already told me about that, and he'd showed it to me again and again and again, and it taught me quite a bit about it. But when I was old enough to read for myself and read this book, how the first week he went into a light state, the second week he went into a light state, the third week he went into a light state, by the fourth week he started to go deeper, and by about the fifth week he went into somnambulism. I said to myself, as a little kid will do, not knowing how busy a doctor is, well, Dr. Bernheim, after all, if you wanted to produce somnambulism quicker, why didn't you ask him to come back to your office every day? Then instead of taking 5 weeks, you could have done it in 5 days. Then, as the child mind raced on, it said you wouldn't have even had to have him come back every day. You could have had him stick around your office and brought him in every hour, we'll say, and done that 5 times, and you would have had somnambulism in 5 hours. Then I said, well, wait a second, why send him out of your office at all? Instead, why didn't you just put him under, bring him out, put him under, bring him out, put him under, bring him out, and I'll bet if what you say is true, you'd have somnambulism within 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. He had written so truthfully, friends, that when I tried it on the first person, I obtained somnambulism intentionally, faster than it had ever been obtained intentionally in the history of the world. Now, I'm not saying that they hadn't sought hypnosis when they tried, but nobody knew that somnambulism could be achieved instantaneously by intention. It was always a chance whether you got somnambulism or not. You'd get somnambulism on many people instantaneously, and I'm not trying to say that I discovered somnambulism. Oh, no. No. All I discovered was that Bernheim wrote so truthfully that if I did what he said to do, and did it my way, that is, give him 5 visits instantaneously, that you had somnambulism instantaneously. By this technique, I was able then to give them 3 visits to Bernheim, that's what I used to call them, and produce somnambulism in about a minute, whereas up to then it had taken 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, and they're still teaching that today. And so, when I venture to teach faster methods, I am criticized, but I know that in the final analysis, in the long run, if you're ever going to make hypnosis a permanent tool in medicine or dentistry, you must have it available to you on an instantaneous basis. I want the doctor to be able to use hypnosis as rapidly as I use it, and many of my students do. Now, that's not braggadocio, you ask them. Watch what I...
Okay, so that gives you an idea of that, and we call it fractionation now. I think we looked up one time when we were at a conference and somebody looked it up, and that was a term that came from psychology. And the Dave Elman induction, was not an egotist. He never used his name on it. He would call it the 3-minute routine, or the 2-minute routine, or the 4-minute routine.
Usually the 2 or 3.
So unlike some people out there, he never put his name on anything. You know, I know that there's been people that have attached their name to using some of the process of the Dave Elman induction, but we've never done that. He never did that. So eyes are the predominant method, opening and closing them 3 times. But again, you can use different things. You can use fingers. I use fingers sometimes because I can't always see. And again, traditionally done 3 times. I know Mike Mandel up in Canada does, I think his traditional is 5 or 6 times. 5. And other means of fractionation can be used. So any fractionation is basically the rising and falling of attention to something. So you can use a variety of different ways.
Cheryl, sorry to interrupt. Just with that piece there, can you talk a little bit about the pace and speed at which that fractionation was done by Dave?
Sure.
He expected his students to get through all 6 of the steps we're covering here in under 3 minutes, which means that the time between each of the 3 passes of fractionation would be on the order of 10 or 15 seconds for each pass, with maybe 3 to 5 seconds in between each pass. It was very rapid. I was driving along with a recording of my father in my car. This is in the last half dozen years or so, which puts me in my 70s at the time. And got this recording on, and my father suddenly in the recording says, "Well, gentlemen, we've had the requirement for graduation of 3 minutes for several years now, but as of this class, we're changing it. You have to be good enough on the 3-minute routine to get it all the way to somnambulism in 1 minute or less if you expect to finish the course." And I heard this, and I was in such shock. 2 of my wheels literally ended up in the drainage ditch at the side, and I had to fight the car back onto the road. So I tried it. You can do this induction under 1 minute. My record's 58 seconds. But to do it that fast, you have to eliminate every non-essential word. You have to do a very fast pace. It's not easy. I do not suggest you try and do a 1-minute version of this for your clients. I tried it on my wife. She finds it so fast, it's irritating. But I can do it in 58 seconds. What's the normal for this? 3 minutes. When we're teaching in class, we usually figure that the first several times a person does it, 4 or 5 minutes, and they should aim to get it down a bit. So it's a very rapid induction, which brings up another point, and that is the Dave Elman induction is not the only induction Dad taught. It's the one that he felt was best for a doctor to learn near the start of his learning, because it forces him to think through the various pieces of hypnosis, the various effects. It's also a very good one for a new client on their first visit to your office, for much the same reason. It's a good convincer, it's a good one to use, but you're going to bore hell out of people if it's the only thing you ever use. So my father taught probably something on the order of between 50 and 100 different inductions, many of which are just small variations on each other. The point is, this was not his only induction. It just happens to be the one that is best suited for teaching and for your first meeting with your client.
So when you read his book and you look at the transcripts in the book Hypnotherapy, or you listen to the recordings that we have, you'll find that lots of times he only uses a piece of the Dave Elman. He doesn't always use all 6 steps. But what we've discovered is by teaching all 6 steps, it is especially effective for, as Larry said, for your first clients, and it builds confidence also in yourself as a hypnotist.
Let me follow up on something that Cheryl just said. If I were to use hypnosis, let's say for minor pain control because I'm pulling a splinter out of a kid's finger, I don't have to go all the way to amnesia by suggestion. I don't need that. I need light trance and some control over that finger.
Or waking hypnosis.
So I might use waking hypnosis. I might use the first 2 or 3 steps, but I wouldn't go through all 6. On the other hand, if I were a physician about to do a major operation, I probably would go through all 6. So you have to develop your judgment as to what portions you need when. If I were to only teach you part of it, I'd be hobbling you. If when I teach a basic course, I teach all of the students, all of the steps, and then tell them what I just told all of you, and let them pick and give them enough information so that they can pick wisely, they've got a very good tool. And
So
they
just
can
a quick
break that
question
tool
there,
up.
if I may. There's a couple of pieces there that when you're physically present with the client, for instance, picking up the hand and dropping it like a loose, limp, wet dishcloth, that's obviously very kinesthetic and requires the person in the room to pick it up. The other aspect as well is when you're doing the fractionation, often it's the, having them open their eyes and the hand is over the eyes, and then you draw the hands down really quickly to watch their eyes close and to the distraction filter, so to speak, visually. How have you adapted those little pieces for online?
And we're going to go through that.
Oh, okay, great, fantastic.
Okay, so we're going to go through some troubleshooting. We're going to go through adapting it. But right there under catalepsy of a group of large muscles by suggestion is the wet dish or the arm drop. And also is the rigid arm. Now, when Dave started it, he started with stage. So he did not go around and drop everybody's hand. Instead, he had them put their hands out, their arms out, and do rigid arms. So that's what I've switched to, which we're going to demonstrate too. So that rigid arm. Now, it was interesting.
The rigid arm is very good over video, for the same reason that it was good on stage.
You can see it.
You can see it well.
So the rigid arm, when Dave was teaching, the medical dictionary at the time put catalepsy as either total relaxation of a muscle or total rigidity of a muscle. And that's why he was swapping them. I've looked that up since, and I haven't seen that.
No, it's
again.
A different definition today
right.
in medical dictionaries than it was then. He always carried the class with him. Remember, he was not a doctor, and he's teaching nothing but doctors. He always carried a medical dictionary with him to class, and I have his old medical dictionary. It's one of my more valued souvenirs.
Okay, so step 5 is amnesia by suggestion, commonly called losing the numbers. And that's the most common test that people have used, but it has nothing to do with the numbers. It has everything to do with creating an amnesia by suggestion, okay, as opposed to an Esdale, which would be amnesia without suggestion. And so losing the numbers, in a moment I'm going to have you count. I'm actually going to run through this with Larry so you actually see it. I will put him out, but I will do it on all of you, okay, as if I was on the internet, which I am. So we'll just do a group hypnosis. So it shows you how to do a group and also how to, and you'll get to feel it and experience it if you've never done that before. So so in a moment, I'm going to have you, first, after the catalepsy of a group of large muscles by suggestion, in a moment, I'm going to lift your hand by the wrist. And when I do, and it plops down, just allow yourself to double that sense of relaxation. Okay? And
obviously, the exact wording differs if you use the rigid arm instead of the arm
drop. Okay.
Can I insert something else here for a moment, please?
Yes.
There's something that, by the way we've set up this slide, can be slightly misleading. Because I've had people ask me, well, I've seen you do amnesia right in waking hypnosis. Yeah, I can tell somebody in waking hypnosis, you've just forgotten your phone number. Try to say your phone number, it won't appear. It's gone.
And for some people, that will work.
that'll work. So I can give short pieces of amnesia in any level of hypnosis, from waking hypnosis all the way down to Esdale, wherever. Here we're talking about an amnesia by suggestion that's much more specific. For that, this particular test is a good separator between trance and somnambulism, because this particular test does not work in trance and does work in somnambulism. So if you were going through this induction and you got to this point and it didn't work, that immediately tells you back up, deepen them, work with them for a while, and then come back in and try again.
But I also have some other
We have
troubleshooting.
other troubleshooting ways as well.
Losing the numbers. In a moment, I'm going to have you count backwards slowly, out loud, and with the number, starting with the number 100. And with each number, you'll find that they just start to fade away. Your mind becomes so relaxed, they just fade away. Just let it happen, it will happen. And start counting now, slowly and out loud. So they start counting. And there's another thing. And by the time you get to perhaps 97 or 96, you'll find they just fade away. Just let it happen, and it will happen. Okay? The numbers are not the goal, so you can use alternate things. If it's not numbers, you can have them say the days of the week. You wouldn't necessarily want them to say them forward because that's too rote memory. So saying them backwards. Most people are used to seeing a calendar, or at least our age, where it wasn't all digital, and we got to see them in months and in weeks, so we can actually visualize the dates. Same thing with the months of the year. But I have heard people say, and you'll do the alphabet backwards. That would take much too much conscious effort. I actually, somebody did that. Who was it? We were at a class with Dave Snyder, and he used that. So whatever he went on to, I said, okay, I'm actually going to do this because I keep saying it can't be done. And I actually, because you sometimes have to go forward, I started to visualize the letter.
W.
No, I was visualizing in grade school that the script letters above the blackboard and trying to go backwards. So I really worked on it while I was in hypnosis in that class. I have no idea what they went to, but I was finally able to do it, but it's not something I could do. And you wouldn't necessarily want to have somebody use that much of their consciousness to put them into trance. I used to ask, are they gone? And then I was constantly saying, are they gone? Are they gone? And so instead, and then when I would say that, they would start counting again sometimes. So I just put it on them. And when they're gone, nod your head. Okay? And if they're really not going down, I have some troubleshooting methods that we'll discuss in a moment for that also. And then I always use an additional deepener. And why? Why an additional deepener? Because when you're breathing, or your client's breathing, and if that were the depth of trance, and this line was the demarcation of somnambulism, as they breathe up and down, they're going up and in and out of somnambulism. So if you deepen them, and I use deepeners throughout the process, also because I use them as convincers, as deepeners and convincers. And one of the things we do is teach 15 methods of deepeners. So it gives you diversity. It makes your day more interesting. And so as you give them additional deepeners, then they stay more in somnambulism. Now, I don't always want somebody that deep because I want to talk more to them. But you can use deepeners to modulate during the process. Okay? So, troubleshooting the eye closure. If their eyes pop open, you can just say to them, that's great. Now we talked about it in my pre-talk, and you are in control of this session. Now you've proved that you can close your eyes and open them. Now I would like you to pretend or feel as if they're glued shut. Go ahead and prove to yourself that you can have it so they do not open. So they close their eyes, and I'll show them sometimes what it might look like, and then also I will let them do that. If it's not the eyes, sometimes it has something to do with fear. So talking about, do they have any fears of this? So a lot of that, I mean, I don't just hop into the Dave Elman induction. I know that we were in the chats before. I noticed that my intake is usually anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes. My first session with clients, I usually do an hour and a half. So an hour and a half and sometimes 2 hours, depending on what the issue is and what they're there for. Okay, so going from there to the arm drop. Again, if I could just put your arm out. Now, Larry has a bad shoulder. So for the rigid arm, you would have them make a fist and put their arm out and have it so that the arm is out and stiffen the shoulder. And I don't have to be actually touching them to do this. Okay, so you don't have to keep it up. So I'll keep mine up. So just one of the reasons I started using a fist instead of having the hand out, Jason Lynette was doing a stage show at a Jewish camp, I think it was. And he looked out into the audience and there were 100 kids like this. And he goes, this is not so good. So he changed it and had them make a fist. And since then, which also helps the rigidity of the arm for them to close that fist tight, as opposed to being relaxed out to the fingertips.
By the way, if you listen to old recordings from prior to that, or if you see old films prior to that, the way it was always done in vaudeville was rigid right out to the fingertips, which is what produced what she's just describing. So if you get an old recording and you find the opposite, you can almost date the recording by this, because when Jason came up with this, the idea spread throughout at least the American hypnosis community fairly quickly.
Well, because we've taught it that way.
Well,
also.
Not just us.
Right.
He's taught it that way. We have.
Right.
Sean has. Blah, 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 blah.
So, and just go ahead and make a fist and just make it tight. Feel the muscles in your shoulder getting tight, your elbow getting tight, your wrist, tighten it. And the more, as if there were a bar of steel going through the center of your arm. And when you try to bend that arm, you'll find you cannot. Try to bend it and you cannot. It's stiff and rigid. And then I have them, and that's great. Now slowly lower your arm down and relax it as it touches your table or your chair. Just find that you go that much more deep into hypnosis. So it's a deepener and a convincer. I also like to sometimes have them open their eyes and look at their hand and try to bend it and look at that, and they're looking at it, because if you ever have clients that leave and they're not sure whether they were in hypnosis, that's a great convincer that they actually have experienced that they tried to bend it and they could not, or that feeling of their eyes. So one of the things about this induction, it is built in. There are so many, I think there's 4 or 5 tests and convincers built right into the induction, which helps not only for the client to go in, but for them to remember the fact that they were in with the process. Okay.
Cheryl,
and
sorry, there was something that I saw. It could have been Jerry Kine. He used to, at the very beginning, I think, encourage people to imagine making a fist so tight that they couldn't possibly make it any tighter, and then imagine relaxing their hand so much that it just that they couldn't relax it anymore or something like that before they then went into the.
Does that one, Paul?
Sorry?
Mike Mandel does that one.
Yeah, and I wonder whether that was part of Dave's work, incorporating imagination into the material before going into that stuff later on.
Yes, let me remark on that for a moment. I'm convinced that Jerry Kine was my father's sound man, because if you get the recordings of my father, the dates of the various ones are on there. He'll say, and today is such and such, and I'm in so-and-so city. So I know when the recordings were made. Now, when the recordings were made, I was in the Mojave Desert playing flight test engineer. And so I wasn't around there. But I knew from when I got back home that Dad had, quote, a college kid as his sound man. Later, when I finally met Jerry and we got friendly, I had the suspicion based upon other people saying, oh, and Jerry makes this claim that he was Dave Elman's sound man, but we really don't believe it. We think he's just lying. So I got him talking about that. And as he's talking about that, I asked him to describe meeting my father. And he described our home. He described my mother's objection to him disturbing Dad at the time and everything. And it was clear that the description was valid. And then I said, so what did you record all this on? And he starts describing the recording machine. What he didn't know then, but I told him prior to his passing away, because I actually published an article on this. He's describing the machine, and he doesn't know that after those recordings were made, my father gave me that machine because I was making history recordings for the Smithsonian Institute. And I used that for that purpose. So he's describing the machine, and I know it intimately. And I'm asking him various questions. And so I'm convinced that Jerry was Dad's sound man. And a lot of questions like the one you just raised, yes, Dad did much of this. And I, to this day, especially including when he was alive, I have a great deal of respect and love for Jerry Kine because he continued my father's methods after Dad passed away and before we ended up joining in the fray. And he deserves a lot of respect and a lot of thanks.
The reason why I asked that question is because it seems like that's a type of hidden fractionation process of having them imagine their hands so tight that they couldn't possibly open it, and then relaxing their hands so much that it wouldn't, that it doesn't want to work, leading into the eye closure, and then the testing there. So those little sort of subtle tests leading into some of those harder tests where they either don't open their eyes or you move into the limp, loose hand, for instance. So I sort of see that as little subtleties and some little subtle soft tests leading into harder tests later on that are either pass or fail.
Right.
You're correct, but let me point something out to you because I feel it's unfair if I don't. The ideas behind those tests come from my father, but a lot of the individual ones were developed by Jerry and also by Mike Mandel, basically expanding on Dad's work. So you have to give credit to all of them.
Right.
Not to just one or another, but to all of them. Because they took this and over the years they've expanded and added and evolved, and that's why I have such thanks to them.
So that would be before doing the induction. I often will throw in some suggestibility. I'll do intake and then I'll do some suggestibility tests with them. So that would be possibly one of the ones that I might use. I use the Lemon experience a lot just to get to feel what is their best mode. Are they visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory? So what senses are they keen with? Because if they don't visualize, and it is important to let them know it, every time I say visualize, it would also mean imagine. So if you do not visualize, just go ahead and imagine it. And they would imagine it with whatever senses, and that would be part of my pre-talk. So also, I went out of my way. When I learned the piano and I memorized a piece, if I was just going rote and playing it, and if I lost my place, I see things as full patterns, and I couldn't just pick up where I was. I had to go back to the beginning. So the fact that this is, we always say this is not a script, there's no magic words, that we're teaching it as process steps, then I have never totally memorized it. I have pattern that I use and I swap it a lot. I don't always use the same pattern. I just know that the steps, so, and I'll use them differently for different people. Like somebody else said, they would use what they learned in their intake for the induction that they use for that client. So I might vary this and bring in other aspects of it for them. So I just wanted to say that. So I very rarely say it exactly the same way twice. And one of the reasons is I didn't want to totally memorize it because I wanted to be there and present and not just saying things. So does that answer that for you, Paul?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also interesting to watch the variations of the Elman induction. I know that Inez Simpson has modified it and, had people put things in the sand, for instance, and write the numbers, and then the wave comes in, washes that away, or their name, and then that's the
right.
part that she goes for the amnesia,
right.
leading
and
into.
And those are all different renditions, like I was just getting to. So if somebody's kinesthetic, having them walk down the beach and write the numbers in the sand and have the waves come and wash them away is a good way for them to just release it. Releasing releasing the numbers. I'll bring in a little Ericksonian white cloud, a puffy cloud, and have them put the rest of them or any parts of them on the cloud. And just, depending on the person, have it, if they're a golfer, just have it just disappear all the way down the fairway and just watch that go. And when it's gone, nod your head. So you're an airplane pilot, I had him banking away from the cloud. So depending on who they were or what they were, what they liked and what was their interest, I would vary if I was doing a troubleshooting on the amnesia. So I would let them, I don't have them go specifically, and no matter, even if they keep going, I say, you're doing great. And it's very important to let them know that they're doing great. So
what are the most important words in the hypnosis profession?
You lost them.
5. That's right. You are doing great.
Or 5. Right.
Those are the stick them in every place.
Right. Or good. And that way they know they're doing a good job, whether they are or not, but they don't want to feel like they failed a test. Now, also, when I didn't say before with iLock or anything, when it says test them and prove to yourself that they just don't want to work. For some people, especially today compared to back in the 40s and 50s when Dave was teaching, we have a lot more tests. A lot more emphasis is put on tests. We have drug tests. We have tests to get our jobs. We have tests in school. We have tests every year. So the fact is, there's more test anxiety today. So I sometimes don't use the word test, and I'll just tell them to try and
prove to yourself.
And, right. So I vary it depending on the person and what their presenting issues are. Okay, and so coming up with some different things for amnesia. All right, so here, some of the things for the group inductions, which are also some of the modifications for doing it online, is beginning, if you're in a group and they're in the same room, or even a group on the internet, you might have them start by looking at a point further up in the ceiling, so they're not going to be looking at each other as they start to come down as much. So a point further up on the wall towards the ceiling, having them have their head up more. Using the rigid arm drop instead of the arm, use the rigid arm, not the drop, sorry, the rigid arm and not the dish rag or the arm drop, because that way you can also see it. Also, I always have them push the computer back a little so that I can see more than just their head. So I could see a little bit more, so I could see their shoulder. If I have them do idiomotor and I can't see their hand, I've just adapted to having them put the hand on the cheek and put the fingers up and down with the hand on the cheek, or up, so I can see them, or you could adapt it into Bob's Little Swan and have them do idiomotor so that you could see the hand if you can't see it on what would usually be your reclining chair or a table. Here's something different. You're not going to, in a group, you're not going to have them count out loud because they're going to keep giving each other back the numbers. So instead, you're going to have them count in their mind's eye. Okay, so they're still doing it, and when they're gone, if it's a big group, I have them raise their hand. If it's a small group, I have them nod their head, but then I'm always like this. Did they not? So I have them raise their hand. Additional deepeners. By the way, one of the things, you can use anything. We were at the New York HypnoBiz last year, and one of the people in the class asked me if you could do catalepsy of the tongue. I said, why not? So I said, you want to try it? So right then and there, we tried catalepsy of the tongue, and she couldn't move that tongue. It was like stuck on the bottom of her mouth, and she couldn't talk, she couldn't do it. And I've done that several times. In fact, on our Gumroad site, there is a video of the whole Elman induction, doing it for groups, doing it online and individual, do it in groups on individual online. And then Sean Michael Andrews doing a small group in person, and Hans Rudy Witt doing a room of about 40 people with English, and just in case you were bored, you can listen to it in German too. There's 2 tracks. So you got all sorts of variations of how to do it. Some people, when I started for groups, were eliminating steps, and I was determined to figure out how to do it where all the steps were still there. And so I've had a lot of fun doing that, and we have done that. So that's about it for the slideshow. Let me get back so I can see all you guys. And you ready to be hypnotized? Okay. So everybody sit back and get comfortable. Okay, and close your eyes. Just, wait. So one of the things before I do that, often, so you were saying about the hands, so you can still do, I don't always do the hand motion in front of the eyes, depending. One office, I can get to the recliner and do it comfortably. My other therapy room here, I cannot get to it very comfortably, and I'm only 5'2", so I can't reach it when they're back in the recliner. So you don't always have to do that. So, but I would sometimes have them look at my hand and just follow it up. And as it's coming down, just allow your eyes to close. And close your eyes and relax all the muscles around your eyes to the point that they just don't want to work. And when you're sure they just don't want to work, go ahead and prove to yourself that they just don't want to work. That's right. And take that feeling of relaxation that you have in your eyes from the top of your head all the way down to your tippy toes. A blanket of relaxation just going across your whole body. That's right. You're doing fine. In a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes and close your eyes. And when you do, you're going to, as much as 10 times deepening that sense of relaxation. Go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes, going down, down, deeper and deeper. That's right, perhaps as much as 10 times deeper. In a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes and close your eyes. And when you do, you're going to as much as double that sense of relaxation. Go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes. Going down, down, deeper and deeper. Feeling so good, so wonderful, so relaxed. In a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes and close your eyes. And when you do, you're going to go as deep as you like. Go ahead and open your eyes and close your eyes. Going down, down, deeper and deeper. Excellent. Now, in a moment, I'm going to have you raise your arm up straight out in front of you, making a fist and feeling that tension coming into your arm, and go ahead and bring it out straight in front of you now, straight out from the shoulder, and make that fist tight. That's right, tight. And feel that tightness going into the wrist and into your elbow and into your shoulder. Just feel that tightness. Excellent. As if there were a bar of steel going through the center of your arm. Just feel it getting tighter and tighter. And try to bend it and you cannot. Try to bend it and find you cannot. Excellent. And the more you try, the more you cannot. And go ahead and start to relax it and lower it slowly. And as you do, go even deeper. Excellent. You're doing great. Now we have all that feeling of physical relaxation that we need. In a moment, we're going to go for mental relaxation. In a moment, I'm going to have you count backwards, slowly and out loud. And I'm going to change that. In a moment, I'm going to have you count backwards in your mind's eye, slowly. In your mind's eye. And as you do, you're going to find that with each number, you as much as double that sense of relaxation. And after a few numbers, maybe by the time you get to 97 or 96, you'll find that they just fade away. Just let it happen, and it will happen, and you will have this wonderful feeling of mental relaxation. Start counting backwards in your mind's eye now from 100. And when they're gone, go ahead and raise your hand, doubling that sense of relaxation. Letting them go. Excellent. That's great. Then just raising your hand as they're gone. And for the rest of you, excellent. And if there's any still there, just imagine a white puffy cloud just coming your way. And take any parts of them or any of them that are left, put them on that cloud and just imagine them going off into the distance. And just let them fade away. And nod your head when they're gone. And as you continue going even deeper, 5, going down, down, 4, even deeper, 3, feeling that relaxation just going through your whole body, your mind so wonderfully relaxed, 2, and 1. That's great. And each time you use this induction, you'll find that you get more and more confident in it, more and more likely to experiment and use different parts of it, being ready for troubleshooting and doing anything you want. And you find it becomes a really good tool for you to use. Now I want you to imagine for a moment something you're looking to accomplish, something you're looking to improve. And when you have that, just allow yourself to find and see yourself as that thing you're looking to accomplish begins to happen for you. Getting even bigger, that feeling of confidence, that feeling of feeling so good as you accomplish that. Just have that feeling. Become even bigger, even more bright. Feeling so good, so wonderful, so confident. Perhaps it's something with building your business. Perhaps it's something in relationships. That's right. You're doing great. I'm going to stop talking for a moment and just to give yourself that gift that you would like to give yourself. Just allow that gift to manifest itself for you. Excellent. In a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5, and as I do, you're going to find yourself energized, feeling better than you have all day, ready to go on with your day with lots of energy, and yet when you lay down tonight in your bed, you find yourself being able to drift off very deeply, very comfortably into a nice trance and then fall asleep. 1, feel that energy coming up from the floor. 2, you're up into your legs, becoming more aware of the things around you. 3, the circulation in your fingers and toes just increasing as you begin to stretch them and stretch yourself. As 4, your eyes becoming crystal clear as if they've been washed in a cool mountain stream. And 5, when you're ready, open your eyes, notice how good you feel, and find yourself having so much fun, you perhaps find yourself giggling. Feel good, don't you? Okay. The website for examples was, we have all sorts of recordings. I'm going to actually put that in there too. It's www.gumroad.com/ I actually have right here, I'm going to put a file. One sec, I moved it. Give me a second. I swapped. I will put that before we leave. Don't let me forget. I'll go looking for it while you guys are talking. Thank you, thank you. And thank you. I would like to open the floor to anybody that would like to talk about how that felt. Was this anybody's first time going down with the Dave Elman? Yes, Lynn? How did that feel for you?
Oh, Cheryl, that was remarkable. I've been, taken into trance before, but that was probably the deepest I've felt that I've gone. Yeah, and I use the Elman a lot, but the part I don't use, and it may be fear-based too, but it's the numbers, it's counting, disappearing. I don't use it. It always makes me a bit nervous that it's not going to happen. And I've done it a few times and they just kept going down to, 75. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. So it's the troubleshooting.
Yeah.
So there is that recording up. And I see, Lawrence, what is it that you posted?
That is the PDF for the group, but in the back pages there is both information about your store as well as the
Gumroad.
The hypnotherapy. Oh, that's not going to work with a green screen, is it? The hypnotherapy book thing. Look, it's suddenly disappear.
There we go. Yes.
So yeah, there's information in that, Rowan, that has in that. But if you find obviously any of that stuff, additionally, Cheryl, please feel free to upload the file.
And I will post some stuff too, because we are actually starting a book study, and we actually have created one for you guys that starts that on a Saturday from 10 to 12, and it's 2 hours a week. Well, I'll talk about that in a moment. I'll come back to it. But I wanted to get other people talking
as well. So
who else would like to talk about their experience with the induction? Michelle.
Hello, that was lovely. I'm a really tough subject as far as hypnosis goes, but I complied anyway. And the thing is, it doesn't, I found it doesn't really matter. Like, I didn't lose the numbers, but I thought it was lovely the way you could just get the cloud to come by. And when you jumped in and started from 5, all those numbers went for me because it didn't matter. So that was just a point to make, like when we're using it ourselves.
Right.
So if you don't get the acknowledgement that the numbers are gone, you jump in anyway. I say thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yes, Anthony.
I wanted to say, yeah, it was really nice too. And the catalepsy in the arm was really strong. I must admit, I'm probably a pretty easy subject too, but it was really strong. And I'd like to ask about troubleshooting that, because if the arm isn't going stiff and that's what we're aiming for, then it feels like a pretty big miss to me. How would you carry on from that or recover?
Well, when I'm working one-on-one, I'm going to pace it on what's good for them.
Sure.
You know, so and of course I'll tell them it's great, and I'll go on to something else if it's not something that worked for them.
Okay, sure. So just moving along. If it doesn't work, just carry it to something else.
No, I had 2 screens, so I was on the first screen, and I wasn't swapping back and forth. And Lawrence wasn't, because he was out like a light. So I don't know if anybody else was checking, but when I get to see that, I didn't see anybody on the first screen that was in trance actually bend their arm. So I watch, same thing with losing the numbers. I watch when about half the people at least have raised their hand, then I'll go on. I'll bring in a troubleshooting method. Another good troubleshooting for the numbers is, and for those of you still counting, just continue to count down with your conscious mind as your subconscious mind continues to concentrate on my voice and what I'm saying. So I split them, and sooner or later they just give up on the numbers and come. But I remember somebody, I don't remember if it was in one of Cal Banyan's classes or somebody's class, that said, wow, they went all the way to 0. That's not the purpose. I will let them.
Me too, also the first time.
Okay, yeah.
I'm a super achiever, and so I went all the way to 0 the first time, not realizing that's not where you should be going. And therefore, I believe that that's about the point where Dad added the thing of, by the time you get to and put what amounted to a limit on it. In other words, without that, you will have people who will just keep going. If you say, by the time you get to so-and-so, they'll probably be gone. You might have somebody who'll go 1 or 2 numbers past, you might not, but they're not going to go zooming down to 0 because of that suggestion kind of kills that.
Right. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to keep up with all the the hypnotic anesthesia spot for injections. We're not going to have time to do that, Paul, but you can email us and we could talk about that. You were asking about the hypnotic anesthesia spot, so for injections, and we will get to talking about that magic spot. That's another whole story. Anybody else want to talk about, because what time do we get to go to? What's the actual time?
The time currently is 12:02. We generally aim around 12, but if anyone has any questions, then I'm it's a wonderful opportunity to ask right now if people are willing to stay an extra 10 or so minutes.
Okay, so also let me, anybody have a question? I'm going to look for that. So I'm going to type in here. We're having this book study group, and I'm going to I'm going to type right in here, B.link. This is one of those shorteners I was telling you about. B.link/ and I created one for you guys that is on Saturday mornings, book study group AU. Okay?
Is that
and
time or their time?
That's on Saturday mornings, your time. It's our Friday night. I'm not sure. But Lawrence, is this going to be available for people to watch again?
Yes, it is. We'll make this available to people again. However, Deborah, I can see your message there. Are you referring to this particular recording, or is the study group recordings going to be made available again? Is that what your question is? Not sure, but yeah. So this recording will make available again, but the study groups.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong one. So sorry. Let me redo that. It's Elman book study.
I'm thinking the induction, Lawrence. I had an appointment, so I actually missed that bit.
Yep, we'll be able to have a replay of that for you.
Thank you, darling.
Okay, study, book study, making sure, yeah, and just book study. Okay, so the first link, the one for Australia, is on Saturday mornings, your time, from 10 o'clock a.m. to 12, and it's 24 hours. It's 12 hours, 12 weeks. And it will be recorded and available for you if you need to skip it, or miss it for any purpose, because that's a lot of weeks. So it'll all be posted. And the one that's just Elman book study, that one we're doing on Sunday night here. So that's your Monday morning. And the Monday morning is from 7 a.m. till 9 a.m. So what we're doing besides those 2 hours, on whatever the topic is, we will have guest speakers coming from global, and hopefully Lawrence will talk, and perhaps you'd like to come too and talk on one of the subjects. But there are 23 chapters in the book. So we'll be discussing child hypnosis, amnesia and pain, and all the different topics, because the induction, Dave Elman Induction, there's 336 pages in this book, and 10% of the book is the induction. There's another 300 pages here of all different great techniques that he used with the doctors and dentists. It talks about waking hypnosis. It goes into his different instant inductions. He has more instants and some other rapids. So more of that hypnosis in dentistry, in childbirth, in stuttering, obesity. So he gets to talk about all these different things: allergies, depression, fears, hypnosis attached to sleep. So we'll be going through all this, and then a half an hour extra every week, if you choose to, optionally, stay and do something together in the breakout rooms, where you can work on either that topic or hook up with somebody and work and practice on each other, and afterwards in the breakout rooms. So I'm trying to limit the classes to about 20 people per class. And right now I still have places the Australian one is wide open because I just started it today. And the other one still has seats in it too. So if this is something you'd like, if you take those links, it's $240 in American money. I didn't write what it was in Australian, but it comes to with the 30 hours about $8 an hour for your classes. You can't even get a babysitter for $8 an hour, which comes to $12.25 in Australian dollars. It's also, there's a button in there that you can do 3 payments of American $85, and it's whatever the Australian is of that. So it would be 3 payments. So if you click on that, it'll be a subscription of 3 payments. So the first one, they both start, the one starts for Australia on May 18th, Saturday the 18th, and goes through August the 3rd. And tons of information. There will be a place that you'll be able to access and rewatch them. We'll be putting up bonus things. We'll be putting up recordings from Dave Elman, some of the videos that we have, and clippings. So there'll be lots of things if other people share, or some of the, lots of times when we have guest speakers, they'll also give some bonus material. So that'll all be in there for you. So it'll be a good value. It's 50% off instead of the $480.
Being asked, what is the name of the book? The book's called Hypnotherapy.
Hypnotherapy by Dave Elman.
And someone's asking where they can get the book from. It's available from your online store as well.
Yes, this is the only one of our products that we do not have as on Gumroad, because it's only a physical copy. But I just ordered in 60. I think I'm one of the few people that have it. It's because I had the number to the warehouse that I called. So I do have them, and I can get them out to you. And they're $45.75 in shipping. So
by summing it up with 12 sessions, 2 chapters per, it makes it small enough bites so that you can really get into it. And so you also don't feel pressured. Like nobody's telling you, read 300 pages this week. No. Take it in groups. And I think that will be more convenient and also better educationally for all of you.
Like I know that we'll have Jason Lynette in as a guest speaker. I'll probably talk to Sheila Granger. So maybe Inez Simpson. We're on that circuit. So there'll be people that are well known that'll be coming in to speak. And you'll get from, and they're all Elmanian fans also. So that's great. And one other thing, if you go on to our Gumroad, which is www.gumroad.com/dhigh-digital. So if you go into there, and we're giving you a special code, and that code is AU Meet, like your Australian meetup, AU Meet 20. And if you use that, you will get anything you want that's on there for 20% off.
I'll make sure so that when this replay goes back up, I'll send an email out to the full list of people that ask for information and include all these links as well. So,
right.
That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
So even if somebody's watching this,
they can still take advantage of these offers.
Yeah, because on Gumroad, those offers stay there's no ending date. So it'll always be there. I may take it down, but if somebody has it, they can still utilize it. Okay, so we really want to thank all of you for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. I did not, let's see, I have to go to the clinic. Okay, I didn't get to read all these chats. So you know what? You can, if you go to the bottom of the chat, and if you hit the 3 dots and say save chat, you can save it to your computer. Which makes it easier to get all the addresses and stuff.
And I have to say,
too long to try and scan otherwise.
Lawrence?
I have to say massive thank you to both of you as well, because this group doesn't realize I literally just sent Cheryl an email saying, would she be open to a quick interview to discuss the Elman induction? And she came back to me within literally minutes saying, quick, let's FaceTime. And catch me in the morning with the hat on because I had bed hair, and literally offered to be here for everyone today, just out of the kindness and generosity of who they are. So my sincere thank you to you both for that. It really has been enormously appreciated.
Well, thank you, because when we were coming to Australia, you and Emma Romano offered to sponsor us for a class up on your rooftop. And we were so excited to be able to do a weekend class. And we're so sorry. And the way things are, I have no idea when we would ever get on a plane for a while, We'll
have to hope a year or two. We'll see what we can do.
Right? Yeah, send a boat for us, right? Not a cruise ship.
No.
So the people that were at HypnoBiz, if you go back and you look in your bag, there were some codes, special codes for you guys that you could take advantage and have a 30-minute consultation with us. And also there was a free download for you. So the people that were at HypnoThoughts, go ahead in and look at that bag. HypnoBiz. We were sorry we weren't there, but we were glad to send in our videos because that was the next best thing to being there. So, so we really appreciate it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to contact us. I put in my email, once again, daveelmanhypnosis@gmail.com. Just don't forget the 2 E's, Dave and Elman. That's the thing that gets dropped the most. And thank you. And again, I'm glad for the people that really enjoyed the session. I'm glad you got to play with it, and feel free to browse. And I hope to see some of you right there in the book study, because that's going to be incredible. Lots of discussion, lots of it's not just lecture, it's discussion, and demos and practicing with each other. So it'll be fun. We've been talking about doing it for years, so I guess there's enough people hanging around, and we're looking forward to it. And learning Zoom and feeling comfortable. Lots of people go, I don't want to take a course on Zoom. How many people have gotten much more comfortable with it now than they were before?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting us. Maybe we'll come back and do another thing in the future, but Lawrence, you were the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, and we'll speak to you all sometime soon.
Yes.
Yes.
And thank you, all the people that are saying bye, and I'm going to, this whipping by so quick, I will save it and read through it. And again, if you want, email us. Here's one more thing. Email us, and I will send you, if you email us and request the script, I will send you some Dave Elman hypnosis, the DEI process and script. So at least you'll be able to practice on each other. So send me an email and ask, and you shall receive. Okay? Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.